What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So let's get into this one. So Turki Alalsheikh has come out on Twitter with quite a, what some would perceive, a crazy idea. And he's come out with the idea that he believes the next person Alexander Usyk should fight is in fact Moses Itauma. So Moses Itauma is arguably the hottest prospect, certainly in heavyweight boxing. He's a young man of only 20 years of age. He's the man that they were talking about breaking Iron Mike Tyson's record, but he's a few months too late. But he's still, at that same age Mike Tyson was when he won the world title. And so Turkey apparently believes that the fight to make is Usyk versus Itauma. Now, I think there's a couple of ways you can sort of think about this idea. First of all, from thinking sort of conventionally, thinking long term, this would not be a smart decision for Moses Itauma to take this fight because he could get hurt in this fight. He's not ready for this fight because he hasn't boxed anybody of note yet. He hasn't boxed anybody sort of around the top 10 yet. He hasn't really got a significant victory that would set him up, or that would make us say that, right, Itauma's earned this opportunity. So yes, he's got the talent that we could say, yeah, this guy's one for the future. But technically, he hasn't fought anybody. He hasn't had the significant bouts against top opposition to where we could say, right, okay, just like, for example, how it is with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker, okay, it's probably not fair comparison. He's a bit older, but Joseph Parker's had the wins against Wilder and the win against Zhang and stuff like that. Bacoli and, so Parker, we say he's earned it because he's fought the significant names. He's fought those particular guys that are up there around the top 10 and around, top 5. So he's fought who he needs to fight to win. Even you can say that with Caballero, beating Cuban, Martin, and, took apart the Russian. He took apart Zhang too and stuff. So you've got guys like that who, those two really, I think Joseph Parker, then perhaps Caballero should be in line. So Moses hasn't really, he's got the talent, but he hasn't earned it as yet. So I think that's kind of the argument against it. But I think the argument for it could just be pure curiosity to see, well, this kid, we know he hasn't proven anything yet, but we also know that he's got the talent that he could become undisputed someday, and he could become a long reigning champion. He just seems to have an immense talent. So let's just throw him in there with the best and see what happens. So you got those two sort of opposing views. Turki Alalsheikh seems to be coming from the other point of view, the second one, where he's just thinking, well, Moses is extremely talented. I've got the money. Let's just throw him in and let's just let him fight the best. Let's throw him in with the best and see what happens. And yeah, I think it's one of them where, it's a tough one really, because as much as I would think it wouldn't be wise, I think it would also be intriguing. I suppose it's kind of a bit different than it was with Mike Tyson in that when in this regard, fighting for undisputed at this point, you genuinely are dealing with the best of the best. So, Usyk is not a guy that's washed up. Usyk is a guy that, he may slightly be out of his prime, but he's really performing sort of at the peak of his powers. He's dominant. He's undefeated, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong, Alexander Usyk. So when you're talking about going for the title, you're not talking about the titles being scattered and there perhaps being a weak champion like with Pacquiao Barrios. You could sort of pick on Barrios because he's got one championship and he's the weaker. With Usyk, you're talking about the best of the best, who a guy that's not in decline, a guy that's firing on all cylinders. He's just the only thing, if he gets old in his next fight, that may defeat him. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think it's one of those where, yeah, it's not a fight that I was really thinking about, but I reckon it's one of those where it's intriguing. It definitely is intriguing, and it's something I would watch. I don't think Itauma really deserves it at this point, but I would be very interested to sort of see what happens if you threw him in, because it's very, yeah, it's interesting. And it gives, for Usyk, there's absolutely zero to gain. There's nothing to gain at all for Alexander Usyk. But for Moses Itauma, there's the world to gain. There's everything to gain, because if he beats Usyk, he becomes undisputed champion in one fight. And also, it gives him the opportunity to then, defend the titles. And the hard bit will be, of course, beating Usyk, but then it will get even more difficult for him in that he's going to have to keep defending those belts, and he can't go backwards. This will mean all his fights from now on are going to be tough fights. So yeah, it's interesting news, very interesting suggestion. I don't think it will happen, because I think Alexander Usyk will probably go the traditional way of fighting someone like a Joseph Parker, whoever's sort of next in line to fight him. I don't think Usyk will entertain it, but it is an interesting proposition. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out.